Every mortal must die. Even a network router is not an immortal. After 4 years of service, my D-Link DIR-655 network router has finally died. But there's no time for grieving. I don't even have time to give it a proper funeral. The most pressing issue is to reconnect myself back to the internet. So I bought myself the Netgear N300 wireless Gigabit router, WNR3500L. Now, let's torn apart its plastic skin and look at its innards. This is an open source router. It has 4 gigabit ports. It supports Wi-Fi A, B, G, and N. Let's see what is inside. It comes with a resource CD. A pamphlet, the router, a Cat 5, not a Cat 6 cable, an adapter, and also a stand. Now, let's take a closer look at the router. So, the top and the bottom is made of glossy plastic. It feels pretty solid. This is the front of the router. There's a switch here for the WPS. It has 4 leads here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is the power indicator. And this is the Wi-Fi indicator. At the back, it has 4 gigabit port, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is connected to the internet. And this is the on-off switch. And here is the place where you connect the adapter. It has 1 USB port here, so you can connect it to a external hard drive or like a USB key. Here is the place you press so that when you need to reset the router. I am going to connect the router to the internet now. By the way, if you don't see this video on the internet, it means my mission has failed. I'm still trapped in my room without internet connection. I hope that's not the case. Now, let's connect the cable. I have 4 LAN cable to connect. 1, 4. And now, as you can see, all the leads light up. Let's hope the connection works. My connection does not work. Damn. So what I do is unplug the cable modem, and hopefully that will solve my problem. Now I'm connected back to the internet. I don't even need to use the resource CD. Now I'm logging into the router. The address is www.routerlogin.net. It will ask you for password and username. My username is ADMIN. My password is password. So if you want to break into my router from outside, this is the username and password you should use. It takes about 1.5 minutes for the firmware upgrade. I am currently downloading the new firmware. My router has now been updated with the newest firmware. If you would like to avoid the unpleasant experience of checking firmware update upon every login, you should click on Router Upgrade and then uncheck these options. And then next time it would not check for the firmware options again, and you can check it manually later if you want. By clicking on the wireless settings, you get this wireless settings screen. It has pretty good wireless support. The speed, it can be up to 300 Mbps, but that's only the advertised speed. Most of the time I got 130. The connection is pretty good. My house is around 30 meters in radius, and I can receive a signal from every corner of my house, so it's not a problem. You can only get 300 Mbps if you choose the AES connection. If you choose the other connection, you can only use 145. You can also have the options for setting up a guest network. That means you can block the user from accessing your local area network and only give them internet access. You can also give them a lower speed when they use the guest network. The Netgear router allows you to plug in a USB external drive so that you can have a shared drive on your network that everyone in your home network can access. So you can click on the USB storage, advanced settings, and you will come to this screen. This is the share name of the USB device you want to share, and you can assign the work group. And there's two options there. You can you access your file through the HTTP on a file browser internally, or even externally through the internet. You can enable or disable them. You can even access your file through the FTP internally and externally. There will be problem if your USB device does not have external power. It will disconnect itself after a few minutes. But it looks like if your USB device have external power, like an external hard drive, it usually works fine. So here I am looking at my hard drive content through the browsers. So I can browse through my folders by clicking on each folder, and when I click on the file, it will ask me to say download a file, and then I can view the file either on the browser or externally. Netgear's stock firmware has very basic QoS support. It allows you to prioritize the network traffic. For example, when you're looking at the video, you will take priority than if you download a file. And for computer games, you will have a higher priority than you doing other activities. But if you want more advanced QoS support, you would have to go to myopenrouter.com to download one of the open source firmware like Tomatoes or DD-WRT. The stock firmware also have a very nice traffic meter feature. Some ISP, they will limit your bandwidth, like you have maybe 100 gig of download per month, and so by coming here, the router will keep track of how much traffic in here, like you have used in the whole month or this week, and if you have exceeded your limit, it will give you a warning by turn on the internet LED to flashing green or amber light. The WPS, or the Wi-Fi Protection Security. Supposedly I press this button on the router and I press this button on the client, it will magically connect without me entering the password. So far I haven't been able to make it work yet. The Netgear is an open source router, which means that you can go to my openrouter.com and download one of the open source router firmware. You can go to product and then pick the WNR3500L, and there's two options. One is the DD-WRT or the tomato, and it will give you instruction on how to install the firmware. The firmware, they usually have more advanced features like the better QoS support. For example, if you go to one of the Toastman's Tomato USB firmware, it will give you like a chart of the distribution of network traffic when you use the router. Sometimes the open source firmware might not have a good Wi-Fi coverage as the stock firmware, so it's a little bit different. I will try the open source firmware someday, but that will be another video for another day. Thank you for looking at the LazyHiker guide to Netgear WNR3500L. Please visit my website www.LazyHiker.com.